Hello everyone. Today we start the second part of our series. This is where we finish in part 1. The home screen. Let's go to Scene folder. Click in the game scene. Then in the hierarchy. Create an empty object that will be circle. Add sprite renderer. Then drag the PNG file. From the scene view, we see it is too far from camera bounds, so we click on the circle, go to Transform tab, and press Reset Position. Now circle sprite is visible, but is big. We decrease size. 0.3 is good scale. In scene view, with Move tool selected, press F to focus. And with mouse wheel, we zoom out, we move it up. Now add rigid body 2DE, go to constraints and fix X and Y position. Because our game, the circle will stay in place. Only rotate around Z axis. Reduce the gravity to 0 for not falling, and make collision to continuous to detect high-speed moving object, then add edge collider, and start settings different point around the circle. Now the collider is set up. Let's drag the script and start coding. Like always, we declare variables. A float for rotation speed. Then we return to Unity. We add an empty game object for the heart that we must protect. Drag the assessed. Don't be afraid. Is just a heart, hand drawn from the best artist in the world. We scale until we like it. And then center inside the circle, so it can protect it from bouncing enemy. Give a edge, collider. And add a spawner and drag the spawner script into it. Even the heart object, drag the heart script. Now we return to heart script and code the collision logic with enemy. We use built-in function. On collision, enter 2D because we are in 2DI. with an if statement that return and output independent of the collider tag. And don't use .tag. Instead, compare tag for performance cause. Like you see the string is enemy. If the collision happen is game over. We go in plus sign below project text, and in Sprite 2DE, we choose a circle that will represent the enemy. We name it enemy. And we drag it to a sprite renderer. Change the color, we positionite, we affect it. The tag enemy. After it, creation, to be recognized. Let's test with a debug log. Now we start with a float to count second C. Then another 2 variables for time purpose. An enemy game object ball I. To transform is where the swap will happen in the world. With ball velocity for the calculation of reflection when colliding with the borders, and rigid body of the ball A. Then in start method with initiate start time. And the timer will get the value of amount time. Then in update function loop. It will decrease each frame until the condition inside if will be true. It will choose a random throw angle. For the spawned object, E, then put the value inside quaternion. For instantiate method, then declare a new game object as a clone for not destroying the original enemy object, and start instantiating. Don't forget to reset the timer to amount E so we can stay in a loop every amount time. Now inspector the spawner object who hold the spawner script EI. We need to fill all empty field E with enemy ball data and create empty for spawn point. We see infinite spawn. Something is not good. And the problem was in update loop. The timer must be decreasing with .delta. Time not .time. What made conflict with start time? Now we see and inspector the decrease good there, but we want the ball to stay in camera bounds and start bounce with reflection. So to stay in camera bounds, we made a script that take an edge collider and give it the form of the camera viewport. So everything inside the camera view E will stay inside the camera E. And in script, we just append point of 4 corner of camera to a list of vector 2E. And we check in any width or height change of camera E. Now after we tested in free aspect with we add reflection mechanism. So we create AS script start be a vector 3 for velocity, then a rigid body to access physics with float strength. In awake we use rigid body. In start we the verb of velocity that follow the upwards axis with a strength of the variable e. In update we store the orb velocity in vector 3 variable way. So after the affectation of last velocity, the value of rigid body velocity. Now in collision function, e with declare local variable about speed and direction, where the speed extract the magnitude. Direction use the reflect method that take two parameters. First the normalized vector 3, and second the normal of surface of collision from the first point that touched the collided object. Now we affect RB velocity with previous variables to give it direction that is multiplied with max values between speed or 0. We return to update functions. We create an if statement that check if the speed of bouncing enemy ball decrease below key, a threshold. We must add a thrust to keep moving infinitely. We drag the reflection script to the enemy ballgame object E, add a strength value. Let's test. We see it fall. Because of gravity scale and rigid body component is set to 1 dar. Now we make it to 0. And there is it reflect AO, and the circle work without input. Even the spawn is okay. To stop the bouncing ball rotation around itself, we stop Z rotation in constraints. So finally, the core gameplay is made now. We start with UI, we add in canvas, and set render mode to camera component. Then below it, another canvas for game UI, and check override sorting, and make order in layer higher, then add pause button, we scale it, then position in the left corner. If we decrease layer order, it become being the background, because the button must be rendered above all game component, not clicking it. And it's bad user experience. Even the anchor position are important. Second, the score text will score while playing the game and put it in right corner.